In a small, peaceful village by the river, there lived a young boy named Timmy and his younger sister, Lily. They lived in a small cottage surrounded by vast fields, where tall grass swayed in the wind. The river that ran near their house sparkled in the sunlight, and the air was always fresh with the smell of the earth. The sounds of birds singing in the trees were a common melody that filled their days. Their parents were kind and hardworking. Although they didn't have much money, they always made sure Timmy and Lily had everything they needed. Timmy and Lily would spend their days helping their parents with simple chores like cleaning the house, tending to the garden, or fetching water from the well. But they also had time to play. Timmy often took Lily by the hand and led her to the fields, where they would play pretend games, climb trees, and laugh together. Their home was filled with love. In the evening, when the work was done, they would sit together and listen to their parents tell stories. The stories always had lessons about being kind, working hard, and helping others. Timmy and Lily felt safe in their home, knowing that their parents loved them dearly and would always protect them. One terrible day, their world was turned upside down. There was an accident, and their parents were gone. The village was silent, and the news spread quickly. But to Timmy and Lily, it felt unreal. Their parents, who had always been there for them, were no longer around. The grief they felt was overwhelming. Timmy tried to be strong for Lily, but the sadness was too much for both of them. They sat in the small cottage, staring at the empty chairs their parents once sat in. There was no one to laugh with, no one to tell them everything would be okay. They felt completely alone. Days passed, and there was no one to care for them. They were too young to understand why their parents were taken away, but they knew they had to continue living somehow. The village leaders made arrangements for them to go live with their uncle, Mr. Gray, who lived in a large, distant house at the edge of the village. They had never known much about Mr. Gray. The villagers talked about him sometimes. He was a man of few words, strict, and some even said he was a bit harsh. But with no other options, Timmy and Lily packed their few belongings and left the house they had once loved. They didn't know what awaited them, but they knew they couldn't stay alone forever. When Timmy and Lily arrived at Mr. Gray's house, it was nothing like their home. The house was huge and cold, filled with heavy furniture and long, dark hallways. The walls seemed to close in around them, and there was no warmth or light like in their old cottage. Mr. Gray was standing at the door when they arrived, his face stern and unreadable. "Come inside," Mr. Gray said in a flat voice. He didn't smile, and there were no words of comfort or welcome. He simply led them to their rooms and told them to unpack. The days that followed were filled with hard work. There was always something to do: sweeping floors, washing dishes, cleaning windows, and making sure the house was in order. Mr. Gray never gave them a moment's rest. He didn't speak kindly to them. If they made a mistake, he would scold them sharply. There were no hugs, no comforting words. Everything they did seemed to upset him. Timmy worked hard to keep Lily out of trouble. He would sometimes sneak her little treats and tell her that everything would get better. But deep down, Timmy knew that they couldn't stay in a place like this forever. The harsh treatment was too much, and they both felt it. Lily, who was once full of joy, began to become quiet and withdrawn. She missed their parents more than anything. It wasn't just the loss of her parents that hurt, but also the coldness in Mr. Gray's house. She could tell that her brother was hurting too. She tried to smile for him, but it was hard. She just wanted to feel safe and loved again. One afternoon, after Mr. Gray had scolded them for something small, Timmy finally made up his mind. He had been thinking about it for days. They couldn't stay in this house any longer. The yelling, the coldness, the feeling of being unwanted. It was too much for both of them. "Lily," Timmy said, his voice steady, "we can't keep living like this. I can't stand seeing you sad, and I know you feel the same way. We need to leave." Lily looked up at him, her big eyes filled with worry. "Where will we go?" "I don't know yet," Timmy said, "but we'll find a place where we can be happy again." That night, as Mr. Gray went to bed, Timmy and Lily quietly packed a small bag. They took only the essentials: a little food, a blanket, and a few of their belongings. They didn't know where they were going, but they knew they couldn't stay another day in that cold, lonely house. They crept out the back door, hand in hand, and stepped into the night. The road was dark, but Timmy kept a tight hold on Lily's hand. They walked through the village, past the familiar sights, but it felt different now. Everything felt distant, like they were leaving behind a part of themselves. They didn't speak much, just focused on the path ahead. They didn't know where they were going, but they knew they couldn't go back. Timmy tried to comfort Lily by telling her stories, just like their parents used to. But the stories didn't feel the same without the warmth of their home. As the night wore on, they reached the edge of the village and found a quiet spot near a small lake. The night was calm, and the stars above them provided a little light. They sat under a large tree, using their small bag as a pillow. Timmy held Lily close, trying to shield her from the cold, and promised her that everything would be okay. They had each other, and that was enough. Lily fell asleep in his arms, feeling safer than she had in a long time. Timmy stayed awake for a while longer, staring at the stars. He had no idea what would happen next, but he was determined to make sure that Lily was safe and happy again. They had to find a new life, a better life. The next morning, the sun rose gently, and the world seemed brighter. Timmy and Lily continued walking, determined to find a place where they could start over. After many hours, they arrived at a small town. The houses were simple but well kept, and there were people everywhere, going about their daily work. Timmy looked at Lily and smiled. This is it. This is where we'll start again. They found a small inn run by a kind woman named Mrs. Green. She welcomed them with warmth and understanding. Timmy found work at a nearby shop, and Lily helped Mrs. Green with cleaning and cooking. It wasn't much, but it was enough to get by. For the first time in a long while, Timmy felt a sense of peace. He knew they had a long road ahead of them, but they were no longer alone. They had found a place where they could be free, away from Mr. Gray and his cruelty. Life in the small town was quiet, and although it wasn't the home Timmy and Lily had once known, it was a fresh start. Timmy worked hard every day at the local shop, stacking shelves, organizing goods, and learning how to talk to customers. He wasn't used to working for strangers, but he did it for Lily. She was his responsibility now. Lily, who had always been shy around new people, helped Mrs. Green with her daily chores. Mrs. Green was kind to them, treating them like family, and Lily slowly began to smile again. The inn was small, but always busy, and Lily was kept busy helping in the kitchen, preparing meals and cleaning. She had never been much of a cook, but Mrs. Green taught her how to make bread, stew, and simple dishes that smelled comforting. One afternoon, while Timmy was out at the market, he met a man named Mr. Adams. Mr. Adams owned a small farm just outside the town. He was friendly, with a big smile that made Timmy feel comfortable. After a short conversation, Mr. Adams invited Timmy to visit his farm. "You look like a hard-working young man," Mr. Adams said. "I could use an extra pair of hands on the farm. Why don't you come by sometime? I could teach you how to work with the land and the animals." Timmy was hesitant at first. He didn't know this man, and leaving the town meant they would be farther from the comfort of Mrs. Green's inn. But he knew they needed to start thinking about the future. They couldn't stay in the inn forever. The idea of working on a farm seemed like a chance to learn something new, something that might help them in the long run. The next morning, Timmy told Lily about Mr. Adams' invitation. She wasn't sure at first, but trusted Timmy's judgment. They decided to visit the farm. Mr. Adams' farm was just outside the town, surrounded by open fields and forests. The land was beautiful, with rows of crops growing in neat lines. The barn was large, and the animals seemed to roam freely. The sounds of cows mooing, chickens clucking, and pigs grunting filled the air, creating a peaceful atmosphere. When they arrived, Mr. Adams greeted them with a warm handshake. "I'm glad you came by," he said. "This is a good place to work, and there's always something to do. You can learn a lot here." Timmy was nervous but excited. He had never worked on a farm before, but he was eager to try. Mr. Adams showed him how to feed the animals, collect eggs, and tend to the crops. Timmy's hands were sore after the first day of work, but he felt a sense of pride in being able to contribute. He knew that this was a step toward building a future. Lily, too, helped out, although she wasn't as used to working outdoors. She helped gather vegetables, pick fruit from the trees, and clean the barn. She was surprised by how much she enjoyed being on the farm. The hard work was tiring, but it gave her a sense of purpose. As the days passed, Timmy and Lily grew more comfortable at the farm. They learned about planting, watering, and harvesting. They took care of the animals, cleaning their pens and making sure they were fed. They learned to care for the land and how to work with the rhythm of nature. Mr. Adams treated them with kindness and respect, unlike Mr. Gray. He was patient, teaching them slowly and carefully. They began to see that working hard in this way brought rewards, not just in food, but in the joy of creating something together. Several months passed, and life on the farm became routine. Timmy and Lily had found their rhythm. They woke up early to work, ate simple meals, and spent their evenings in the small cottage Mr. Adams had provided for them. The peace they had found in their new life was the most comforting thing they had experienced since their parents' death. But one day, as Timmy was feeding the chickens, he saw a familiar figure walking toward the farm. His heart sank when he realized it was Mr. Gray. "What is he doing here?" Timmy whispered to himself. Mr. Gray had found them. He had heard rumors in the village that Timmy and Lily had run away and had come to look for them. Timmy felt a cold wave of fear wash over him. He didn't want to go back to that house, not after everything they had been through. When Mr. Gray reached the farm, he didn't greet them kindly. He looked at Timmy with cold eyes, his face stern. "You think you can run away and hide from me?" Mr. Gray's voice was low and harsh. Timmy stood tall, trying not to show how nervous he felt. "We're not going back," he said firmly. Mr. Gray scowled, his eyes narrowing. "You have no choice. I'll take you back, whether you like it or not." Lily, who had been standing behind Timmy, felt a knot form in her stomach. She didn't want to go back. She had finally found a place where she felt safe, where the work was hard but rewarding, and where people treated her kindly. The thought of returning to Mr. Gray's cold, harsh house made her heart race with fear. Timmy and Lily knew they couldn't go back to Mr. Gray's house. They had worked too hard to build a life for themselves here, and they couldn't let him take that away from them. Timmy looked at Lily, who nodded quietly. Her eyes filled with determination. They spoke to Mr. Adams, telling him about Mr. Gray's return. Mr. Adams, seeing how much the children had grown and how strong they had become, agreed to help them. He told Timmy and Lily that they could stay on the farm as long as they needed to. "You've become part of this place," he said kindly. "You belong here now." Timmy and Lily were relieved. They knew they had made the right decision. They weren't going to let fear control their lives. They had found a place where they were valued, where they could work hard and feel proud of their achievements. Timmy wrote a letter to Mr. Gray, telling him that they were happy on the farm and that they would not return to his house. The letter was clear and firm, and they sent it off with Mr. Adams' help. Mr. Gray was not pleased with the letter. He was furious, but after thinking for a while, he realized that they were not going to come back. He was a man who valued control, but Timmy and Lily were no longer children who could be easily controlled. After some time, Mr. Gray decided to leave them in peace. He realized that, while he may have been their guardian, they had grown into young adults who could take care of themselves. And although he didn't like it, he understood that they had found happiness and a place where they could live freely. With Mr. Gray out of their lives for good, Timmy and Lily flourished. They continued working hard on the farm, learning new skills, and becoming even more independent. They were stronger, more confident, and more self-reliant than ever before. Over time, they built their own little house near Mr. Adams' farm. It was small, but it was theirs. They spent their days working, growing their own food, and building a life that was filled with love, hard work, and purpose. They became known in the town as kind, hard-working people who had overcome great obstacles. Timmy and Lily had found their way, not just surviving, but thriving. As they grew older, Timmy and Lily continued to live a happy, fulfilling life on the farm. They never forgot the lessons they had learned about resilience, love, and the importance of family. They helped others who were in need, offering support and kindness, just as Mr. Adams had done for them. The town and village recognized their strength and perseverance, and Timmy and Lily made many friends along the way. They knew that no matter how difficult life got, as long as they had each other, they could face anything. And so they lived happily ever after, surrounded by the beauty of the land, the love they shared, and the sense of peace that had once seemed so far away.